welcome back to Monster Frequency. This is another mini episode all about the flu vaccine and COVID-19 booster jabs. At the moment, the NHS is encouraging those eligible for the flu vaccine and COVID-19 booster jabs to come forward and book their appointments as soon as they can. This is a new campaign out by the NHS. There's a video to go alongside this. And to talk about this, I've actually got the return of our fantastic guest, Dr. Sarah Jarvis MBE, media medic and GP. She's a bit of a superstar, and she's on the podcast again with us today to talk a bit about this. So let's get Dr. Jarvis to talk a bit about this campaign. Dr. Jarvis, welcome.
So this campaign is about two things. Firstly, it's about flu vaccination, but secondly, it's about COVID boosters, because this year, unfortunately, we face a twin threat. Last year, levels of flu were extremely low. Now, the good news was that we did roll out the flu vaccination campaign last year, offered it to about 30 million people, and lots of people took it up. Ironically, levels of flu last year were exceptionally low because we were either restricted in terms of who we could meet, or later on, of course, during flu season, we were in lockdown. Now, that meant that there was virtually no flu circulating. What that also meant was that people's immunity may well have waned. And what that means in turn, very unfortunately, is that we may be in for a really bad flu season this year. Now, we also, of course, are very likely to have higher cases of COVID. And the COVID booster offers brilliant protection against ending up in hospital, but it's not 100%. It's already saved, we estimate, 130,000 lives. But those people who got their COVID vaccines first are now coming up to the stage where it's 6 months since they had their second vaccine. So what we are trying to do is to encourage everybody who's eligible, and for COVID booster, that's anyone over 50 and anyone who's clinically vulnerable or clinically extremely vulnerable or living with someone who's immunosuppressed. We're trying to encourage them to take up the offer of booster when they're offered it, and they'll be invited for that. But we're also trying to persuade everybody who's eligible for the biggest flu vaccine rollout in history to come forward and have their vaccine.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Jarvis. I think it's absolutely fantastic, this huge kind of rollout. And I think, as a bit of a side note, really, I just keep remembering just how absolutely incredible all of this is. I mean, the fact that we've even got this COVID vaccine, on the cards for us is just incredible, isn't it? I can't believe the amount of work that's gone on behind the scenes from all the clinical researchers and people running these trials and patients and everything. It's just amazing, isn't it? Just as a side note.
I mean, it really is. This is the biggest vaccine rollout in history. And frankly, it's really, I would say, the biggest medical success story in my lifetime. It's the whole world. Every country in the world has sent researchers. They have worked together. They've collaborated to make this a reality. But of course, let's not forget that vaccines save thousands of lives every single year. It's not just COVID vaccination. So the combination of the COVID booster and the flu vaccine, and again, the same people who are most vulnerable to severe illness with COVID are the very ones who are most vulnerable to illness with flu. So giving both vaccines to those vulnerable groups really should help to protect us against having an NHS that isn't there for us if we need it.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Jarvis. Just on the point of kind of, ensuring that those, people who are actually requiring it are going forward to get these jabs. I understand there's actually a way that you can quite easily check this online, isn't there? The NHS website, just to check if you are eligible.
Yeah, you absolutely can. So if you go on to nhs.uk and look for winter vaccinations, or indeed coronavirus booster or flu jab, then it will tell you whether you're eligible. But basically, as a rule of thumb, if you were invited for your COVID vaccine in one of those first 9 groups in the early few months we were rolling it out, then you are eligible for a COVID booster and you will be almost invariably eligible for a flu vaccine as well. But there are a few extra people who are getting the flu vaccine, and that's particularly young children. We've now extended it from age 2 to year 11 in secondary school, and they'll be offered a nasal flu spray, because we know that unlike with COVID, where children aren't particularly efficient at spreading the virus, they are extremely efficient at spreading flu. And we can greatly help to protect children who, although they don't tend to become extremely unwell with flu, it really can knock them for 6. But we will also, of course, protect the rest of society.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Jarvis. And I'm not sure how kind of medically relevant this next question is. And of course, these are both, very, very important illnesses that we need to take care of. But is it possible to be kind of super infected with flu and COVID-19 simultaneously?
It's a really important question, and I fear that the answer is yes, categorically. It's not that common, but of course, if you are infected with one, then your immune system may be low, and that could lead to a real concern that you may be more vulnerable to severe infection with the other. All the more reason for getting both vaccines, because unfortunately, COVID vaccine does not protect you against flu, and vice versa. Flu vaccination does not protect you against COVID.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Jarvis. And just one of my kind of final few questions now. I understand that there's actually a new kind of a campaign film that's being kind of launched, talking all about this. I wonder if you could kind of tell us a bit about it.
Well, basically, these are some of my colleagues. I know them well, and I've worked with them for years, and they are some of the most trusted medics in the UK, and they are reminding us that this is all about protecting everybody, and pretty much every doctor and healthcare professional in the UK is on board with the idea that we need protecting. The Joint Committee on Vaccinations and Immunisations, who are the ultimate expert in vaccinations, have come up and they've given new advice about who should be getting the boosters. We know that the NHS experts and the Joint Committee on Vaccinations and Immunisations are out there recommending this expanded booster programme. And this video is all about reminding people why they've made those recommendations.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much indeed, Dr. Jarvis. I will head towards letting you go now. I just wanted to kind of just give you the chance really to either reiterate any points or point listeners in the direction of further information, anything like that at all. You're just very welcome to do that at this point.
So where the COVID booster is concerned, don't call us, we'll call you, or we'll text you, or we'll email you. You will receive notification. But if you're significantly over 6 months since your last dose and you haven't heard, then you could try, you can go online and check on the NHS, see what's happening, and you can actually try booking an appointment there. But with flu vaccination, many, many people will already have been contacted by their practices. But of course, it's not just general practices which are offering the vaccine. Many local pharmacies are doing an amazing job in offering it as well.
Well, Dr. Jarvis, thank you very much indeed. We'll let you go, but a massive thanks for coming on the show with us today.
Thanks so much for having me. Always a pleasure.
Well, that's it from me. This was a mini episode of Monster Frequency. Do watch out for our next full-length episode. We'll be out soon. Bye for now. Bye.